one of the deepest archives in the Vatican, where only priests are allowed to enter. There was a sealed box resting there for years. It wasn't listed in any document. But last year, that box was opened. Rainy morning in March 2023, within the cold corridors of the Vatican archives, a specially authorized historian known only as Frater X was assigned to catalog undocumented relics. Inside those stone-walled rooms where thousand-year-old books whispered dust and secrets, he discovered a rusty box hidden behind a drawer. The seal on the box wasn't written in any known language. There was only a single symbol. A circular mark formed by 7 intersecting lines. It sat in the center, silent, yet screaming with menace. When he opened the box, he found a parchment inside. No date, no author, no divine citation, yet the ink looked fresh. As if the one who wrote it wasn't dead, just waiting. The first page read, "When 7 gates open, 7 spirits will descend upon the world, and each will drown a nation in blood." From that moment, Frater X's life unraveled. He couldn't sleep. Every night the same dream. A chamber underground, lit by a dim, flickering light. 7 headless skeletons, and in the center, a still beating heart inside a body. On the walls, the cursed symbol etched again and again. And the voice that echoed every night, 2027, the spirits will find their flesh. Frater X didn't report the prophecy to the Vatican because he knew some things, once opened, do not close again. But the leak had begun. Fragments of the manuscript, now known as the Codex Nemurien, began spreading across the dark web. And soon, people from around the world started dreaming of the same symbol. In Iran, a child drew it on his school board. In Norway, a woman carved it onto a gravestone. In Chile, a monk pointed to it on a wall, and then stopped speaking. They all said the same thing. The gates are opening. The number is 7. The spirits are returning. Each spirit is a wound, and every wound reopens when it is called. The second section of the Codex Nemurien spoke of 7 entities, but these were not classic demons or mythological gods. They were described as formless beings. They had never been born, and they had never died. They were simply waiting. Each was bound to a concept, and invoking that concept would awaken the associated spirit. According to the manuscript, one day, humanity will summon its own wound, and on that day, bodies will become shells for the spirits. According to Frater X's translation, the 7 spirits were 1. Belvar, faithlessness, a being unafraid of the dark, but hostile to the light. 2. Marduk, hunger, one with an endless appetite, who sleeps not when fed, but when all others starve. 3. Catherion, chaos, a warped mind that despises all systems and sees order as a curse. 4. Sirum, disease, lurking under the skin, spreading through breath, multiplying through tears. 5. Varnus, betrayal, the touch that once gave love becomes the hand that stabs first. 6. Drelvac, fear, the sensation of being watched by something never visible. 7. Zometh, silence. It does not speak, scream, or weep. It only ends. These names, as stated in the Codex, must never be spoken aloud, for every utterance is an invitation. Frater X only ever wrote the names, but during his research, he found striking similarities in history. In medieval Europe, tales told of a phantom named Belvars haunting churches. Mongolian folklore spoke of Marnak, a spirit immune to starvation. A Mesopotamian tablet described Ketur, a shadow god of ruin. Were they all born from the same root? Frater X's notes revealed that these 7 spirits had possessed human hosts before, but those bodies couldn't endure it. Some went mad, some took their own lives, driven by what stirred inside them. Only one lasted 7 days and then vanished. For certain beings, death is not a release, because they are not dead, they are chained. But now, with 2027 drawing near, could humanity once again be loosening those chains? Because warnings were starting to appear. Some symbols are not seen with the eyes, but with the mind, because they are carved into consciousness, and even after waking, they do not fade. But just 11 days after beginning his translation of the Codex Nemurien, Frater X received an email. The sender, a university researcher he had never heard of. Subject line, a single character. Attached was an image. It showed a symbol scribbled in a child's school notebook. According to the researcher, the child had drawn it in Iran. He had no knowledge of the Vatican, no idea who Frater X was. Yet the symbol was almost an exact match to the seal on the Codex. Days later, a second report came in. In a small village in northern Norway, an elderly woman awoke screaming in the night. She fell to the floor and carved the symbol into her wall with her fingernails. The third case emerged from a monastery in Chile. A monk, who hadn't spoken in days, suddenly stood and whispered, "The gates are opening." Then, with trembling hands, he traced a glowing sign in the air. The common thread? They had all seen the same dream. A dimly lit room with curved stone walls, a black candle burning at the center, 7 silent shadows circling around it, and a glowing symbol on the wall. There was no sound in the dream, but every dreamer described the same sensation. We're being watched, but only from within. It's like someone's looking through the backs of our eyes, and they're waiting. Frater X began to understand. This symbol wasn't just metaphorical, it was a trigger. On page 7 of the Codex, he had translated the following: "What the waking eye cannot see, the sleeping mind perceives, and some shapes can only be remembered through dreams." From that point on, events escalated rapidly. Throughout 2024, reports from 11 different countries included recurring dream elements: a black candle, 7 shadows, the symbol. Some individuals stopped speaking altogether after the dream. Others began hallucinating. A few took their own lives within 72 hours of waking. Psychiatrists labeled it mass psychic resonance, but the Codex warned otherwise. Before the gates open, the shadows announced their coming. As the year 2027 approached, the symbol was no longer confined to dreams. It began appearing in the real world. Carved into gravestones, etched on ancient ruins, drawn onto old church walls, as if someone was pushing from the other side of the door. A solar eclipse is not just the absence of light. In that moment, shadows grow. And sometimes shadows do not just conceal darkness, they announce something coming. The most corrupted page in the Codex Nemurien was page 13. The edges were burned. Some sections were stained with ink, intentionally smudged. But Frater X discovered a date there, March 20th, 2027. That same day, a total solar eclipse was set to occur. But this eclipse carried a peculiar anomaly. It would be visible, albeit briefly and symmetrically, on 7 separate continents. Modern astronomy considered this nearly impossible. For the same eclipse to manifest across continents in precise geometric distribution, a perfectly synchronized celestial alignment was required. And yet, the Codex had foretold it 1,000 years ago. Frater X translated the following line on that page: "The sky will darken, the light will be devoured, and in that moment the gates will open, for in the dark the 7 spirits shall find their place." According to the Codex, these gates were not physical. They were not doors, tunnels, or stone passageways. They were structures of the mind, voids within human consciousness. Each gate would open inside a person. 7 individuals, 7 bodies, 7 continents, each one destined to carry a spirit. The selection began with a dream. Those who saw the symbol in their dreams had unknowingly invited a spirit. And if the void within their psyche was deep enough, the gate would open from the inside. In Frater X's annotations, he clarified, "These spirits are not mere energies. They carry consciousness. When they enter a host, they do not possess, they coexist." But this coexistence lasts only 49 days. After that, either the spirit dies or the body does. The page also contained a drawing, 7 shadowy figures inked in black. Each had a unique symbol on their chest: a broken cross, an inverted eye, a half-burned flower, a heart wrapped in chains, a world split into 3, a weeping face, and an empty circle. This last symbol belonged to the 7th spirit, the only one without a name, the only one left undefined. But Frater X had scribbled something beside it in his own handwriting: Zolmeth, silence, death, void. After that entry, Frater X was never heard from again. His file was closed. If any notes remained, they were sealed away. But when the gates open, it's not just spirits that pass through. Humanity also makes a choice: to embrace the darkness or to seal it away. On the morning of March 20th, 2027, the eclipse occurred. But unlike any before it, this one was silent. Birds ceased to sing. Dogs didn't howl. People, almost unconsciously, forgot to look up. Yet, shadows grew, and some people woke up, changed. Initial reports from around the world didn't seem alarming at first. In Indonesia, a woman began speaking 17 languages in 48 hours. In Canada, a young man claimed his reflection had vanished. In Egypt, a child carved symbols into walls in a dead language. In Argentina, after 72 hours of silence, an elderly